So, the most important personnel note concerning Minnesota and North Carolina that I came across this week is that the status of Darius Taylor and Daniel Jackson is somewhat in question. What do we know there?
Don't have any details yet. PJ Fleck said that the injury report will come out 2 hours before the game, so that's when we'll have a sense of who's available. Daniel Jackson, when we were there we had about 3 practices open. Daniel Jackson, toward the end of those practice sessions, was limited in some capacity. Fleck didn't seem too concerned about it. Darius Taylor, uh, basically, it sounds like he's good to go, but we'll see when the injury report comes out. I would guess that we'll see if you know Fleck's going to have to hold him out. Like, if he's not quite ready to play, do you hold him out with the idea that you got a couple of non-conference games coming up and get him ready for the Big Ten slate? Like, we'll just kind of see where he's at. Fleck will definitely probably try to hold him out if he's not quite ready to play. They're not going to rush him, but we'll see.
Now, in regards to the running back room at Minnesota, it's been quite impressive to me and others how they've been able to bring guys off the bench and just continue to reload when there's injury and other situations, typically injury there. What do we feel about, of course, Marcus Major comes in from Oklahoma. You've got the Michigan State transfer that we saw play significant time in East Lansing, Jared Mangum, and a few other options there at running back.
Yeah, the Gophers emphasize the running back room, especially with all the injuries that they had. Their style of play, they want to have a deep running back room. They can turn to different options, and Marcus Major has been someone that really stood out during camp. A lot of positive feedback from the coaches on what he's been able to bring. That one-cut rushing style, downhill runner, very physical, falls forward for yardage, fits the zone scheme well, has good vision, compress the hole, and make things happen. I think that the health factor is going to be the biggest thing there. Can he stay healthy for the duration of the season? They also brought in Sia Bangura from Ohio, who's I believe MAC freshman of the year as a freshman, and then last year continued to play, saw some action. I think that pad level for him is going to be a big thing, running low, getting used to the schemes that he's going to be playing in Minnesota's offense. So we'll see how he adjusts. You mentioned Jaron Mangum. He's there as well. Physical, big. He's a bigger back, so he gives them another dimension in that sense. And then Jordan Newman's back as well, outside zone specialist. He really loves the mid and outside zone and can really hit those cutbacks. So they have a lot of different running backs that they can turn to based on style of play and what type of matchup they have that week. And then carry distribution. We'll kind of see how Fleck handles that. Does he divide the carries up a little bit more, or is it concentrated, up into the top?
Daniel House, Gophers Guru. It's gophersguru.com. There you see where to follow Daniel on X and also Gophers Guru on X. So we touched upon the Daniel Jackson uncertainty. The wide receiver room is in question, maybe the biggest uncertainty on the team from a unit standpoint. Who could possibly need to step up there?
That's the key position group. You got to find somebody that can step up behind Daniel Jackson. You need a couple of different options. Elijah Spencer last year joined the team as a transfer from Charlotte. They're looking for him to take a big step forward and be consistent. You got Lemeki Brockington, who is a very strong run blocker, has made some strides as a route runner. It sounds like this offseason the coaches are pleased with the progress that he's made. And then also you look at potentially Christian Driver, son of Donald Driver, transfer from Penn State, gives him some suddenness and juice out of the slot, potentially some yards after the catch ability. So I'd say you need to get 2 or 3 wide receivers to step up behind Daniel Jackson. So maybe the schematic pressure is taken off and you can spread the ball around more. I think the tight end could be involved. Jamison Gears, someone that they're excited about, a bigger target who moves well, good route runner. Can make plays and align from different spots to get you into different formations. So keep an eye on Jamison Gears as potentially maybe being more involved in the passing game as an option, and the running backs too. I think that was something that I took a lot of note from through camp, through coaches talking at press conferences, trying to get the backs more involved in the pass game. And that's something that transfer quarterback Max Brosmer talked about a lot, having those outlets and ability to check down, go through the progression and find the back. I think that's something that was a strength in his game at New Hampshire, and now he wants to, apply that here, be able to, get 5 yards on first down, then that opens up a lot of possibilities on second down. Your play calling predictability goes in a different direction. So that's what I think is something to watch, just how they distribute the football, who gets passes. Maybe the tight ends and the running backs are more incorporated, but you're going to need a couple of receivers to step up behind Daniel Jackson.
So the quarterback domino shuffle that continues across the nation as it's connected to Minnesota's, of course, Ethan Kalkumanis moving to Rutgers, and then he kicks Gavin Wimsatt into a backup role at Kentucky. You mentioned Brosmer coming in as, I believe he won the Walter Payton Award as the Heisman winner in the FCS level. But in evaluating Kalkumanis versus Brosmer, and I got to think that regardless of the level of play on the field, that they just by accident will throw for more yardage and have better passing statistics, I would think, than they had under Kalkumanis. I think 53%, under 2,000 yards passing. But when you watch these guys on tape, where's the upgrade, or what are the comparisons between Brosmer and Kalkumanis?
I'd say field vision side of it. So being able to see zone droppers, coverage picture changes, processing, being able to be accurate with the football and find options downfield, go through the progression. I think last year there's maybe some stuff out there in games that wasn't quite executed, whether that's ball placement, whether that's, route running, whether it's a drop pass, whether that's the pace of the throw. I think that was something last year that got them into trouble, intermediate passes, you can't throw rockets. You got to be able to pace it into the window and change the trajectory of your throws. I think that's going to be something that Brosmer has to get used to here, where like the speed of the game is so much faster. The athletes are outstanding going from FCS to the Power Four. So how you throw the football is a little different, how you shape it, the timing, throwing into the windows. The processing and that type of thing is going to be the same. It's just going to be how does he adjust to the speed of this of football at this level. And I think the first game's a huge challenge, Mark, because Jeff Collins' defense, he's called the Minister of Mayhem for a reason. Like, this guy brings a lot of pressure from different spots. You'll get corners, you'll get nickels, you'll get linebackers, you'll get safeties. It's dashing the pressure all over the defense, disguising coverage. And he had a whole year here where he wasn't coaching to just sit and study some things and dial stuff up. They got a good front seven. Feel like the cornerback room, they got two guys on the outside that are solid, Elijah Hussey and Nickel going outside. That matchup, the first game, that's a tough scheme. You already have a lot of unknown. You're scheming for ghosts in a sense, where like you're trying to figure out what each team's going to do. Minnesota will have some wrinkles too, but to have this scheme be the first one you go against, that's a big challenge.
Yeah. Also, we've got an offensive line at Minnesota that during this run by PJ, once he got it rolling there, and of course everybody points to 2019, but the offensive lines that they produced there for 2 to 3 seasons were among the best in the nation. Ton of experience, high performers, a first round selection at center in particular, then underperformed last year. Do we think that this offensive line will bounce back in 2024?
Well, there's a lot of returning talent on the offensive line. It's probably the strength of that side of the ball. When you look at Ariante Ursary on the left side, potential guy who could go in the first round with a really good season here. He's super athletic, really good in the run game. I don't think he gets enough credit there. You look at left guard, Tyler Cooper, who emerged last year, someone that will be a solid player at left guard. Center, Greg Johnson, he was playing at left guard last year, a little bit on a rotational basis. He's going to take over at center, so they're going to have him in action for the first time snapping the ball, so keep an eye on that. Right guard, sounds like Quinn Carroll, the right tackle, is going to kick inside, which I think is a good move for him. I think he's going to do really well there based on his skill set and his strengths. And then the right tackle spot, we'll see. Is it Philip Daniels? Is it Martez Lewis? Is it a combination of both? They're kind of competing. We're competing during camp and determining what was the best lineup combination. So they have a lot of options. I think like their starting lineup strong. I think if somebody were to get hurt, it's like what's going to happen at center, who's going to come in, in that role. I guess the offensive line, though, from a starting standpoint, I think it's going to be the strength of the team, which is what you want.
So we got a matchup once again against North Carolina, and this team has had a lot of fanfare going into each season under Mack Brown. Much of that has to do with first of all, his comeback to North Carolina, and then it had to do with the quarterback position with Sam Howell, of course, and Drake May, and the complementary of close to elite weapons that they've had on offense, and just the prolific style of the offense. A lot of talent recruited to the defense that hasn't necessarily performed. I would say that this is the first year that North Carolina's kind of discarded and not pushed, somewhat pushed to the side in regards to expectations. Max Johnson at quarterback, Omarion Hampton could be the best running back in college football. What do you see when you look at the Heels?
I look at their team and I see, some question marks on the offensive line, trying to figure out what that looks like. Willie Lamp in the right guard's only returning starter on the offensive line. So they're trying to figure out exactly what the combinations look like there. So I think that's something to watch. If Minnesota can get North Carolina into passing down situations, be able to move people around and create some mismatches, do some things from a pressure standpoint. I look at quarterback. I'm guessing they're going to play two quarterbacks. You see a little bit of Max Johnson. You'll see Connor Harrell come in maybe in a zone read, quarterback run type of component. Try to do some different things, make Minnesota at least prepare for both skill sets. And I think that's something to watch for in the game. You mentioned Omarion Hampton, dynamic back. I think they got a good running back room. Caleb Hood coming back, Darwin Barlow, a transfer from the USC. They got a freshman they like as well. I know that could potentially work his way in. I look at their wide receiver room, a mix of different skill sets in there and some versatility. And then you add in the tight end, Nesbitt, who can move around and go to different alignments and has good movement skills and body control in the red zone. I'm watching Jordan Shipp too, true freshman wide receiver. I really liked him during the recruiting process. 4-star player, I think, could come in and make a big impact on that side of the ball. But defensively, man, I think this team, North Carolina, I think their defensive line is going to be the strength of the team. You got Rucker coming back, who's going to be one of the best pass rushers in the country. But you look at that interior, that defensive line, they got a lot of different skill sets they can mix and match. Josh Harris, a transfer from Ole Miss, is acclimated really well, it sounds like. But you got Travis Shy, you got Kevin Hester, you got Ritzy in there, like all these different guys that you can mix and match. And then on the edge side, I'd say Bo Atkinson, young pass rusher. I think this guy's going to emerge this season and have a really strong campaign. Keep an eye on him. And then in the secondary, looking at it, I think, Elijah Huzzy kicking outside, having him and Marcus Allen out there, I think that's going to be a really good duo at the cornerback spot. Caleb Koss is probably going to handle that star position in the defense, and maybe DeAndre Hopkins, Boykins, who missed last season, he can kick back to the back end. I'm kind of curious to see how they mix and match the personnel in the cornerback room. But Marcus Allen, he got stronger this offseason. I'm curious to see what he looks like with another year of development. But they got a lot of good defensive personnel, particularly in that front seven. I think safety depth, linebacker depth, those are going to be the two keys for them overall. But Minnesota's going to have their hands full with this scheme, like I said.
Daniel, what is it with Fox featuring Minnesota on the opening Thursday night? There was the Ohio State game at home, in which they played well until they lost it in the fourth quarter. They, of course, won a nail-biter against Nebraska on a late field goal, and then they come back on a Thursday night here against North Carolina, trying to avenge a loss from last season. But it's a good spotlight for the program, because if you're going to watch college football on Thursday night, you're most likely going to watch Minnesota.
Yeah, a lot of it's due to the Minnesota State Fair. The Gophers play on Thursday night, so every year they tend to kind of have a strong matchup in the first game, and it's a good slot for national TV. So, like, the State Fair is the big thing up here in Minnesota. Like, if you've never been to the Minnesota State Fair, you haven't experienced it. It's a unique event that everybody gets excited about, and it's near campus. So, like, this first week they have a shuttle that comes from the State Fair, and you can't do it because the State Fair is just packed. Like, there's 138,000 people there on day one of the fair. I mean, it's a big deal. So that's kind of shapes the schedule. Minnesota doesn't play that. They play Thursday instead of on the weekend due to the fair.
Well, Daniel, please forgive me, but I've never been to Minnesota, period. I think it's maybe one of the final 15 states or so that I haven't been to. So I'm going to have to make it up there at some point.
You got to make it up for a game. I'll show you around. We'll give you the experience, show you what it's like. It's a great stadium to watch a game. I think people appreciate Minnesota when they come up as kind of an underrated spot to watch football. It's a cool setting there.
Very nice. Daniel House of Gophers Guru. Daniel, of course, we'd like for you to highlight what's available there at Gophers Guru, both for, of course, what you've got offered to Minnesota football fans on the college level and the NFL.
Yeah, on gophersguru.com, tons of content, two-part series previewing the offense and the defense matchups to watch, personnel, keys to the game. You can check that out there. And then a ton of features this offseason. You want to learn about every player. I got a lot of different stories written where delving inside the offseason improvements that they made and things that they're looking to do this season. So you can check that out. There's like a link on my profile with like 37 different pieces for you to read before the game to get yourself up to speed, off-season studies, and then stuff around the Big Ten through the transfer portal series. I wrote about my favorite transfers for each Big Ten program. So $5 a month gets you access to the content over on gophersguru.com.
We always go to Daniel. He's our source on Minnesota football. Daniel, we appreciate you stopping by. Enjoy a big weekend of football.
Thanks, Mark. You too.